I've read a few Skinwalker tales here on No Sleep and figured that it may be time to add my own. I was raised in a rather traditional Navajo home by my grandparents, who had a quiet reputation of their own as an odd couple of sorts. Grandpa was brought up as a hatali, or medicine man, and grandmother, who came from a family of long rumored to be, well, different. It was sadly the norm to experience chilling events on a day-to-day basis, as our home was the target of so many attacks. One day, while playing outside, I came across a small leather pouch hidden inside my tire swing. At the tender age of 7, I knew better than to touch it. Grandpa's examination revealed it contained some hair and some ashes. Later that night, a few cousins came to spend the night. We decided to sleep outside, safe inside Grandpa's track bed. Surrounded by pillows and blankets, we started rowdy a game of Uno. When suddenly, the dogs started growling. Hackles raised, they seemed to be focused on the woodpile. An older cousin who perpetually carried a BB gun suspected a coyote. After a minute of silence, we observed a coyote walk slowly from the woodpile to the surrounding trees. Taking the chance to discourage it from returning, he fired. As soon as the coyote was hit, it stood up. What the fuck? It was a man. Obviously, it was no longer a fun night outside. Dropping everything, we rushed back to the house. After reporting the event to my grandpa, we fell asleep and woke to an interrogation by most of my uncles and few aunts. I never found out what they did and never wanted to ask. I later heard that well-known community member passed about a week later. No one but the man's wife and children attended the funeral.
I decided to join my bestie Karen for a 3-day stay at her grandmother's place on the res. Her grandmother lives near a place called Tuba City, Arizona, in the middle of nowhere, but surrounded by rural homes. We go to college together, and I was kind of interested to know about Navajo tradition. The first day we stayed, it was pretty chill, nothing out of the ordinary, but then her grandma, who's not that old, only around 67, said that a stray dog came out of nowhere and wouldn't leave. To me, it did act kind of strange and was ugly looking. It was black with a shaggy coat, and it looked like a mix between a German Shepherd and a lab. That night, we were watching a movie in the living room that had big windows that looked out into the front where the cars were parked, nothing fancy. The curtains were wide open, and Grandma was in the kitchen cooking dinner, and we were in them watching a movie. Next to the window is a bookshelf where all the DVDs are kept. Karen went to put the DVD back we just watched, but she freaked out because that stray black dog was staring at us through the window, standing on top of the wood box outside. Not something normal dogs do from my point of view, or hers. Usually my dog, which is a house dog, scratches the door to be let in. Res dogs aren't house dogs, and dogs inside homes are frowned upon in Navajo tradition. They're meant to protect the house and the owner. The other dogs seemed to stay away from it. Karen opened the door and yelled at it to get off the box, and it ran behind the shed. We went to Tuba City to get some groceries and came back to the house. The dog was nowhere to be seen, so nothing unusual. Grandma had went to go visit some people, so it was just Karen and I. About 5 o'clock, we heard someone trying to open the door. Both of us looked out since there had been no car heard and no dogs barking. Looking at the living room window of the door, there was the dog trying to open the door with its paws. 2 paws wrapped around the brass doorknob, standing on its hind legs. I thought that was weird, but wasn't really freaked out. Karen was. She opened the door and chased it off. Later, when Grandma came back, Karen told her. Grandma didn't like what she heard. We got ready to sleep, and we slept in the spare bedroom since it had 2 beds. One window with curtains opened a little. We turned off the light, but there was a sound coming from the top of the roof. Pitter-patter footsteps, and scratching sounds, and panting. It then sounded like it jumped off onto the large plastic water barrel they had. At first, we heard what sounded like barking, but as it grew louder, the other dogs seemed to be barking at something also. But all of a sudden, something was running around the house, barking, and it was the dog. Nope, it wasn't. This barking sounded human. A deep male voice barking like it knew that we knew it wasn't a dog.
Woof, 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 ruff, ruff, arf, arf.
Just exactly like that, adding the W's, R's, and A's. Then panting again by the window, and we started freaking out. Karen decided to, in my opinion stupid, open the curtains to look out. There was a stray dog on its hind legs looking into our bedroom, but this time it stunk, and what I thought were 2 black holes in the neck were another pair of eyes twinkling. Think of those ugly glossy spider eyes staring at you. And the paws were deformed looking hands with overgrown, somewhat thick and sharp fingernails. Again, both screaming and shutting the curtains closed. Grandma came running through the door and seeing it. First thing she did was grab ashes from the fireplace, load 3 shells in her shotgun from under her bed, blessed herself in Navajo, and went outside to shoot it, yelling in Navajo about how the thing wasn't welcome there, and how to get out of there for it to go linger somewhere else. Them both being traditional, the next day they called a medicine man to come over and put cedar in. He prayed over everyone with cedar smoke and an eagle feather, blessed the place, and made us eat bitter herbs called eagle's gold or something, and he gave me an arrowhead. Apparently, I needed to carry one for protection and a little pouch called corn pollen. Seems to work pretty well. The medicine man said the dog was a skinwalker, which in Navajo is a long word, but I could just call them Yoshis. The body of a stray dog, which was killed by the skinwalker, made an illusion so we wouldn't know it wasn't a real dog. He said that the Yoshis tend to harm people by using some sort of human bone straw to spit at someone. Think spitballs, only deadlier, and get human bones into them. Doctors can't detect it, but the medicine men that day pulled a piece of human skull out of Grandma's right shoulder. Pretty big, about 2 inches long and 1 centimeter thick. It was real because we watched him pull it out of her. That was intense.